The only thing constant in life is change, and you can either adapt or fall behind. Today on Art of Purpose, we have Chris Carpenter, the founder and CEO of ChartSquad.
Most people don't think about medical records until they need them. And then unfortunately, they're faced with the challenges of obtaining them. It boiled down to focus and understanding the market. Who are the people that need the record? Well, the injured. If you're injured, you need your records. How do I reach them? And the easiest way to reach them is through civil litigators. The heart of it is I'm empowering patients. That's it. A lot of people have called ChartSquad a disruptor. Fine, I'm disrupting a $10 billion a year industry. I'm just getting started. You have to believe in yourself and you have to believe in your purpose. The art of purpose, it really is an art. You have to create, craft, fail. Failure is nothing but packaged wisdom. No matter what you're endeavoring, always try to do it the best. Always try to do it better than the person next to you. And that you will find will breed success. Driven people will succeed.
The only thing constant in life is change, and you can either adapt or fall behind. Some of the most famous companies today have had to adapt in order to address pain points within an industry. Netflix started off as a DVD rental company that eventually transitioned to online streaming, revolutionizing how people consume entertainment. Amazon Web Services started as a way for Amazon to manage its own e-commerce infrastructure, which eventually became the leading cloud computing platform, completely transforming the IT industry. Our guest today is one of those game changers. Today on Art of Purpose, we have Chris Carpenter, the founder and CEO of ChartSquad, a medical retrieval company at its core that has addressed a particular pain point for consumers and within the legal industry, providing medical records for his clients with a service that aims to be faster and better and at a fraction of the cost. Today on Art of Purpose, Chris will talk to us about how his life and business journey led him to identify a problem within the medical records industry, adapt, fix that problem, and make life better for consumers nationwide. Chris will share with us his eureka moment, stories, and tips for other aspiring and current entrepreneurs and business people. And as a small preface, one of the things that I really like about Chris is that he works with family. His wife is his life and business partner. So we'll definitely talk about that. Chris, thank you so much for being here with us today, and welcome to Art of Purpose.
Thanks, Kenny. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, and particularly for you, we know that you flew in from Utah for this, so thank you so much for making the time and traveling.
No worries at all. It's nice to get back to my old stomping grounds.
Yeah. Cool. And as before we get started, everyone, we want to encourage you to continue to listen. Thank you for following us along. We're actually coming up on our 1-year anniversary of Art of Purpose, so thank you for being with us on this journey. Please like, subscribe, comment. If you have any guests that you'd like to see on our podcast, go ahead and tell us. We will definitely do our best to get those people on. All right, so Chris, I want to start off by sort of painting the landscape or laying the foundation for our conversation here today. And I want to do that for two reasons. One is most people don't think about medical records until they have to get them, right? And so most non-lawyers don't know about the obstacles involved in trying to get your medical records. And then two, even for lawyers, right, who have been getting medical records for a long time, they don't know that there's a solution that is actually better and faster and at a fraction of the cost that's available.
Sure.
And so before even getting to the solution that you provide through ChartSquad, can you tell us about the problem that ChartSquad was created to fix? So what was that issue going on in the medical records industry for which you created a solution?
Yeah, well, it wasn't apparently directly obvious to me, so sort of an epiphany, right?
Yeah.
I got to that moment. I wanted to be an attorney. I had a transfer agreement set to McGeorge School of Law, and that was where I was going. Yeah. But in order to pay for that, I was working my way through and to pay for college and life. And I literally was working night crew, stocking shelves at a grocery store, right? And a buddy of mine on the night crew shift, after work, we were, hanging out, and he said, "How do we make more money? We need more money. Let's look at the want ads." I know most people don't. Newspapers are gone, right? But we're sitting on the porch, literally, and we're looking to. We see this ad, and it says, "Hey, $11 an hour, 4 hours a day, blah blah blah." Oh, okay, we like this. We flipped a coin, who's going to apply, you know,
That's
because there's
funny.
only one
Oh
position.
my goodness, yeah.
I won the coin flip.
Nice.
I made the call, made the application, and actually got hired. And that was for a company that went around to doctors' offices and copied medical records in response to those who are requesting medical records, right?
Gotcha. Uh-huh.
That could be attorneys, insurance companies, disability, or patients, right?
Right.
And I thought, well, this is intriguing. Medical records? This makes no sense. And I
Yeah.
was very curious. But, you know, get in the car, you dragging around this equipment, you know, photostat machines, and you're
Oh, you were bringing the equipment.
yeah, you bring
Oh,
yeah. It
yeah.
actually started brilliant man. John Smart started this whole concept decades ago, where hospitals had this problem with paper and all these requests. Well, he would go in with this photostat machine, drag it in on a cart, you know, and throw these pages through taking pictures, develop the Kodak film, and then deliver them at a cost,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
To whoever these requesting parties were. And so that's what it was. I was really efficient at it. You know, you're driving from office to office, you map it out. Back then it was MapQuest. You know, there was no Google.
Of course, you're right.
It was always wrong.
Yeah,
but you know,
I
you
remember
figured it
MapQuest.
out. Anyway, that's really the way that it all started. I just needed to pay for college, and that turned into an opportunity. You know, I was curious. I would call my manager and ask him a lot of questions, and he would eventually push me to the owners. I don't know, this guy's got a lot of questions. I don't know how to answer these. And so the owners adapted to me really quickly because the questions that I was asking led to greater efficiencies in how we were delivering the product.
Very cool.
And I think I was 6 months in as ground level employee.
Yeah.
And the owner called and said, listen, I'd like to send you out to Chicago to be my regional manager. The guy that we have out there tanked. We're about to lose the whole region, you know?
Wow.
How much does that pay? You know,
Yeah.
obviously is my
Yeah.
question. How much
Yeah.
does that pay? Well, it's 60 to 80 grand. And back then in, what was it, 1998, I guess?
Yeah,
What,
my goodness, yeah, that's-
yeah. I was
right
like,
now.
that's not bad. I'm gonna just go to law school, get all this debt, and I'm not going to be too far from that. So
Yeah.
let's give this a shot. I'm always willing to try something new. And I did it. I just up and moved from my hometown of Sacramento, California. I'd never been anywhere else except for Tijuana. Right?
Right.
So why not? You know, had a friend that lived out in Chicago that had moved there from high school. I moved in with him. And it just kind of took off for me. I started having conversations with these medical practices to understand where their pain points were.
Right.
And I'm not a sales guy, but I really believed in what we were doing because I immediately saw the importance of this role, right? These are patients that need these records, whether they've been injured, whether they're applying for an insurance policy, whether they're on a disability claim and need their next paycheck, right? That was always intriguing to me. And so knowing the underlying, you know, help that I was doing really drove me. And so I took that region in Chicago, expanded it out to Michigan, Ohio, New York, Florida.
Wow.
I opened up all of those states,
Yeah.
and over the course of 4 years.
Wow.
And they invited me at that point to come back to California, Southern California, and run the company
Wow.
as the COO.
4 years in.
4 years in, yeah. I'm a pretty driven person, and
Yeah.
when I find a purpose in something, there's no turning off. I don't have an off switch, right?
Yeah.
My wife will tell you she hates this. But it was really intriguing, and I thought, look at all the good we're doing, right? It was really neat. And so, you know, we took that. That platform was one of the top 10 release of information companies in the entire U.S. Was really proud of what I had done, and then I met this young litigator, Melanie Harris at the time, who we were dating, and she asked me what do you do for a living, and I told her quite proudly. You know?
Yeah.
And she wasn't very pleased to receive that information, and then summarily explained to me how I was destroying, you know, the process of making patients whole, or plaintiffs, if you will. And so that sparked my interest. Right? Wait, what? Tell me more. And well, the patients pay all these bills. You know, yes, you copy the records. Yes, your company may do it efficiently, but you're charging all these ridiculous fees. Yeah, I know. That's how the company profits. I'm I'm actually quite good at that,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there was one point, I don't know, I was probably 14, 15 years in, and I just went on a project, state by state by state across the U.S., analyzing what the release of information laws were. And where there were no laws, we would inflate the prices because we get to control the market. Where there were laws, you could analyze the laws and understand how the industry had failed to utilize the law to get maximum profit out of the release of that information. Brilliant, right? That's what businesses do.
Yeah,
And I thought, this is what I'm going to do. That, again, helped that company profit and helped that company grow.
Right.
Now I'm here talking to this litigator, and she's explaining how that's a huge problem and what it actually ends up resulting in. And, you know, if you are spending $5,000, $2,000, $10,000 on a set of medical records, that's coming out of the patient's pocket, period, right? I don't need to tell you.
No, but you know what? This is great. And if you could explain to listeners, because there might be people who understand, there are people who don't or aren't aware of this, right? Because once again, when we have many listeners who are attorneys, but there's also many listeners who aren't, right? And who won't be thinking about medical records until they need to get them. And this also helps them directly, right?
Yeah, you nailed it in the opening. Most people don't think about medical records until they need them. And then unfortunately, they're faced with the challenges of obtaining them. And I've spoken to veterans and mostly veterans who, you know, will recant their story to me and tell me, thank you. They will find my cell phone and they will call me, right? They've called me and personally thanked me. I tried for 7 years to get my records. And now you got them for me. I don't know how you did it, but this is amazing, right? Well, that process of obtaining your own medical records is a civil right that is granted to you, just like all of your other civil rights here in the U.S., right? The federal government has said you have a right to access your medical records, period, right? It's your body, your treatment. And so most people don't know that. And even when they do need their records, they don't know that. They fall into the, oh, well, someone's going to request them for me, fine, whatever, right? And so to your point, and to answer your question more appropriately, if you're unaware of the process, HIPAA is what defines everything for us. It is the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, and it was put into place to help patients with the portability. Let's focus on the portability. My records should be able to move with me when I need them to move, right? If I'm moving to a new state, I need my records to move with me. If I am applying for insurance, all of the things we've discussed before, it's only when you need those records that you understand how difficult it is to get them. And not necessarily just by the hoops that the industry places in front of you, the company that I worked for and helped to build, but also just a lack of interest on the part of those who are managing your medical records, right? So if you find yourself in a position where you're going to need access to your medical records, understand that there are solutions out there, right? ChartSquad being one of them, that will empower you with your federally granted civil right. Okay, so if you're in a hard spot, for example, you've been injured and your attorney, for example, says, well, I need to request all of your records. That attorney is a third party. That third party is guided by different laws we spoke about just briefly. Those laws are implemented to help businesses make money, right? It's not that those are bad laws. It's just those are state by state. The states have legislated, obviously the lobbyists in each state, the businesses, that yes, we want to be able to charge this much money. No one knows this. It's a deep underbelly of how all of the information trades hands. Okay.
Yeah, and essentially, if I can here for our listeners, is it creates like a middleman in between, right? And so it creates a third party. Exactly. It's this industry now that can also obtain money, get profits by facilitating the retrieval of these records. But a person is always entitled to the records
directly.
Yes. And the hospital and providers have to give it to them. But now laws have created this sort of third party in here that inflates the cost of getting those records. And the person who ends up being hurt is the consumer, is a person, is a patient, is a person that's been injured, right?
1,000%.
And so attorneys, while, you know, of course, they're helping their clients, if they're operating within this third party sort of like industry, they have to pay these record retrieval companies to get those records. And eventually they do pay for them up front, but they pass those costs on over to the people ultimately.
Yes.
So they're the ones paying it at the end of their resolution, and it takes away from their settlements
Takes
at the end of the
money
day.
right out of their pocket.
Right,
That's
yeah.
absolutely correct. And so this isn't a small thing, Kenny. We're talking about a $10 billion a year industry that's release of information. Okay, it's the 800-pound gorilla.
Jeez, yeah.
Okay, and law firms don't have the capability to fight it.
Right.
And I know that a lot of them try, and their paralegals are calling and citing HIPAA and high tech, which is in the next legislation to follow HIPAA, to focus more on an electronic copy of your records that you now have available to you as a citizen and a patient at any treatment location. And for your listeners, I think it's important. I'm talking dentist, podiatrist. It doesn't matter. If it's healthcare, you have a right of access to it.
Right.
Period. I don't care if you're in college and you go to the campus clinic.
Right.
Those are your records.
Absolutely.
Understand that. Always have them. Always keep them, because after 7 to 10 years, depending on the state you live in, they will be destroyed. They can and will be destroyed. From the healthcare, the way that healthcare is going, it's very corporatized and it's very defensive. Those records become a potential lawsuit.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Sure. So
Why
they
am
will
I
be
storing all
destroyed.
these records?
They will be destroyed. Yeah.
Yeah, we will destroy them, and it's not nefarious. I don't want your listeners to think that their doctors are against them, because the doctors really want to practice. The doctors really want to help, right? Just like attorneys.
Yeah.
But there's underbellies to all of this stuff, and like I said at the onset, I like to take things apart and really figure out what the drivers are. And so for medical records, which seems so like a nothing burger, you know,
innocuous. Yeah.
Right? Totally. It matters when it matters, 100%. And it really matters when it does. So I think that hopefully your listeners get a better understanding of the importance, right, of their healthcare journey.
Absolutely.
Whether it's now or later.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in today. I want to share with you that this episode is brought to you by the Law Office of Kenny S. Ramirez. Now, life can change in an instant. Whether it's a car accident that wasn't your fault, a slip and fall in a grocery store, or even the tragic loss of a loved one. And the aftermath can feel overwhelming. You might be dealing with trying to get medical treatment, medical bills, missing work, calls from the insurance company, or just the stress of not knowing what to do next. That's where we come in. At the Law Office of Kenny S. Ramirez, you have a team, a family of accident attorneys who are here to give you back your time and peace of mind. We're here to help you get the maximum compensation you deserve so you can focus on healing and getting back to what matters most to you: your life, your family, your future. If you or someone you know needs some guidance and support after an accident, click the link in the description below for a free case evaluation. You'll speak with our team and we'll help you get your life back on track. And we're committed to being by your side every single step of the way. No matter life's challenges, you don't have to face it alone. We're here for you. Now let's get back into the episode.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so I do want to speak about then how ChartSquad comes in and adds the solution. But before doing that briefly, you mentioned, over the course of these 20 years that you were at this company, helped build it out. We learned right now that in 4 years you were running the company, right? In sort of doing all of that, how did you, what were there some principles, some ideas there that you learned in running that business that then helped you, as you look back in your life in building out ChartSquad eventually as well? And what are maybe some principles or concepts, ideas that maybe listeners can also hear and go, wow, that's helpful and I can apply this to my business as well?
I could go on and on about this. I'll try to keep it to the simple high points. As I was growing up, I grew up in what can only be described as abject poverty. Single parent, 1-bedroom place, triple bunk beds with my brother and sister, Del Paso Heights.
You know what? Thank you for sharing that as well, because I think, our listeners love hearing where people come from, particularly as well, because it helps us identify as well. It's very similar with me as well, right? And I think people, when they see or hear your story and everything you're doing now and where you come from as well, that's inspiring for them as well. So thank you. Yeah.
Well, culture today, white privilege. There's a lot, there's I'll stay away from all the trigger words, but there's poor white people too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And everyone in America, the American dream is that regardless of race, color, or creed, if you work hard, you can succeed, right?
Yeah.
And that's the way my mom raised me. And I've always held true to that belief. Don't ever lie, don't ever steal, don't ever cheat, and never give up, right?
Yeah.
Work hard and you will be rewarded. Yeah. And so all I did was apply those root lessons from my mother as I got the first job. And then, you say 4 years. I didn't think about it as a success journey. I just thought about it as doing my job, right, Kenny?
Yeah,
and all of a sudden I find myself running this company, and there are those moments where, what am I? Why am I here, right?
Yeah,
and you start to think, CEO is only one level up, and then you start to look at all these, the Bill Gates of, back in my time, you think CEO, these are amazing people, and they're just brilliant, and they must have all this money. They're just dudes. You know what I mean? They're
just also trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
right?
It's just a guy or a girl. They're just trying to figure it out too, but they've figured out more than I have. So that kept me driven. And so I would say to your listeners, no matter what you're endeavoring, always try to do it the best, right? Always try to do it better than the person next to you. And that you will find will breed success. Driven people will succeed. Success is defined differently by every listener,
sure.
I would have to assume. But in that 20-year journey working for that other company, working for, right? Which is another takeaway. Yeah. There's a big difference between working for someone. There's a lot of security and safety in that to a degree, versus being an entrepreneur where you hang it all up on the line every single day, right? You know this very well. But no, I think that part of that journey is, an important part of that journey was first, recognizing I'm no different than anybody else, right? I'm not special. I'm just a guy that anybody else can knock me off the perch anytime if I take my foot off the gas. Okay. So let's stay driven, let's stay motivated, and most importantly, I would say, purpose has to drive you. Money is not purpose. Okay? There's the youth today are focused on money. I'm going to be an influencer. I'm going to be a YouTuber. I'm going to make all of this money. What are you accomplishing? What are you giving back to your community? Yeah. What is your footprint?
Right.
And so that's always been something that rests deep inside of me as well. Is, look, if you have truth as a purpose, which I do, and you're driven, then you can take the drive and force that truth out into the community. From the community, you can take that and expand it into the state and then federal. And that's literally the mirror of what ChartSquad did. I met Melanie, and she corrected me in my ways, understanding what things were, and I decided I'm not going to be part of this anymore. I realize now that all the things that I've spent 20 years doing may have been helping people to a certain degree, but it also had an element of deception to it, right? It was all about the money. And so it was at that point that I decided, no, I know compliance like the back of my hand, HIPAA, high tech, now what is now leading the way, which is the 21st Century Cures Act. I'm going to utilize all that, and I'm going to build a model that empowers patients. And that was 13 years ago. ChartSquad has grown and grown and grown since. We've made it on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest growing privately held companies for 3 years in a row. So I think I'm doing a couple of things right, but it all boils down to just being driven, not giving up, not believing less of yourself, not believing that person's way better than me. I never have a chance to challenge him. You can do anything that you want. Your listeners need to understand and embrace that, especially in today's culture.
Oh, I love that.
Don't take labels. Don't allow people to put labels on you. Don't be placed into a bucket. Just always get up, keep going, keep trying.
Thank you for sharing that. And I love these twin sort of pillars that you've given us of there's passion and purpose, right? And then also drive.
Yeah.
Right? And those two combined, clearly for you, have been the impetus, or rather the foundation for your success, wherever you've been. And wherever you set your eye.
Even when my first job, I think was Leatherby's.
Oh, nice.
And I tell you right now, I made the best Sundays in that place.
Yeah.
It's like whatever you're doing, learn how to do it better than everybody else. And I've seen a couple of your podcasts. I know Erica Contreras, phenomenal,
she was amazing.
phenomenal
Absolutely.
accomplishments. She's an amazing attorney. But she had alluded to some of these things as well. It's like, pick yourself up, keep going, right? It's like, put in the work. You've got to do it, right? It's 9 out of the 10 people in a room are going to accept what they're given. And one of them is not,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Be that person.
Yeah.
That's really what that means. That's the best advice I can give.
Yeah. And speaking of that, you are that person, and we're that person on that driveway speaking to Melanie, who became your wife, right?
Who's now
we haven't said that.
Yes, who's now my wife,
So,
and
Melanie,
mother of 3 children.
Yeah.
Yes, and the guiding light of reason. Boys are really not that smart, just so everyone knows. Listen to your wife.
That's good.
Trust me.
This will be clipped and put everywhere.
Right.
Okay, so so on that driveway, you decided, you're going to be that 1 out of 10 people that you were just telling us, and you were going to take the status quo, and you decided to make a change. So, can you talk to us a little bit then about what was that change, and what did you set out to do then? From once you got this information, you realized, okay, hey, I've been helping people get medical records. But I've also been doing that within a framework that unfortunately, hurt people as well by inflating prices, right? Unbeknownst to you, that's just, hey, this was a business, that's how you understood it. And then, I don't know where you go from that point to going, you know what, I'm going to completely change this and take, a $10,000, $30,000 bill down to $35, right?
Sure.
How does that happen? So can you explain, one, the solution that you set out to provide, and then how you went about that? Yeah.
Well, it wasn't, as you called it, it was the aha or the epiphany moment, right? Of understanding I had created a pretty good amount of red on my ledger. Now, I feel like I need to fix it, right? First of all, it was like a personal debt.
Yeah.
Like, damn, now that I know this, let me put my head onto how to put that same drive that we talked about into fixing it.
That's cool though, by the way, Chris, though, because I think many people have had those sort of moments and said, okay, let me set that to the side. I'm going to keep making money, right? Because
Well, that's the 9 other people in the room.
Right,
Kenny.
exactly, right? Because it's also not my problem to fix. What do I care, right? But that you also, going back to the twin pillars of drive, that and also passion and purpose, right? And that there's something deeper within that as well, because I think that's what drove the decision from that point forward for you while carrying drive, right? Because you just said there was some moral component to it as well, where you said, I'm going to fix this.
Absolutely, there's a moral component. And if you lack one, your journey is going to be a little bit different, I believe.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be taxing, and it can be an anchor, right? Because the easy way is not always the right way.
Right.
But to better sort of articulate, I had that weight, but I also had just an urge to fix the problem. Boys like to impress girls. I was dating this amazing young woman, and she had a problem. And I was like, well, I can fix this problem. I totally have. I know all the tools to do it. And so I whipped up this little
The tale is old as time. I'm just kidding.
Well, let's be honest, Kenny.
That's awesome.
True motivators. But no, quite honestly, there were 2 parts to it. So I'm just remaining true to myself and the story. And it's like, well, how can I help Melanie and her firm while having this nice 6-figure C-level job for this very large company? How do you thread that needle, right? When one is directly opposed to the other. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to whip up this program that essentially empowers patients to just request their own records. Use technology. Gave her a website. Said, here, log in, and your firm can use this website, and it's going to help you get your records. And she did. She took it to the firm. They started using that website. It's called ChartSquad.com. And she was floored. She's like, what did you do? How did you do this? Records are flying in and for free. And I was like, that's the law. It's federal law. You're the attorney. How do you not know this? You know what I mean? And Kenny, like you said, how many attorneys are bothering to learn about HIPAA or high tech? And while they do on its face, because they need to have a HIPAA to request records.
They're complying with it.
Yeah.
But
Right.
yeah, go ahead. Mm.
But what is the fabric that weaves that together? And that's really all that it is, right? Just stop asking and requesting records as a third party. Let your patients drive that bus, right? And that was sort of that moment for me, where it's like, look, here's this website. Yes, it'll work. She was floored. Yes, it did work. And from that point, it didn't just work. She handed it to another attorney's office, and then they handed it to another firm, and then it just started growing. Mind you, I'm sitting in the offices at this company that I work for that is now receiving these requests at the healthcare providers that we contract and represent.
Talk about threading that needle.
Oh yeah. I'm the guy that everyone below me is coming to going, what do we do with this? I've never seen this kind of request. What do we do with this? We should charge them this much or this much. And I would, no, that's federal law. You have to give it to them for free or for $6.50. Well, that, it's causing an uproar.
Yeah.
This company's getting bigger and bigger and it's cutting into our profits, I'm sitting here in the middle going, something's going to give.
Yeah.
I can't do both of these things. But ChartSquad really did start to catch so much momentum. At the time, that particular company was moving to another state. I had just, married Melanie at that point. We had our first child. And I just took the opportunity to say, I'm going to stay. I'll train someone else to take my job. I did that and I never did anything nefarious. I really believed in that company. I loved the owners, and I helped them transition to a new operations director, and they moved out of state and continued on. I took my 401k and took the tax hit and just dumped everything I had into this new family and this new business. And it's like, roll the dice. Let's see if it works, So we grew up in California. That was our backyard. And we've just sort of flourished from that, from that tiny little start.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a neat journey.
What a story. And, so once you're in that moment, you decide to make this change, right? I'm going to go into ChartSquad full on.
Terrified.
401k. Talk to us about that, because I think many people in many different degrees, it could be a choice between two different jobs. It could be going off on their own. It could be many different things, find themselves at a crossroads, right? Yeah. And like, do I go here or do I go there? And talk to us about how you were feeling and, how ultimately you decided to, yes, I'm going to move forward with ChartSquad.
Tumultuous times, Kenny. But, going back to my reference, 9 out of the 10 people are going to say, I'm sticking with this cushy C-suite job and I'm not. No, why would I rock the boat? Right. This is pretty nice life. But there's just a greater purpose. There's more people that I can help down this avenue. So while, I impressed the girl, now we're married, have our first child, then quickly following our second child with 2 under 2 and no money,
Right.
I'm happy to talk about that. It was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. You just have to do it, right? The only thing to fear is fear itself, right? We've all heard that 1,000 times. Yeah. It's absolutely true. Was I terrified? Yes. Was there fear involved? Absolutely. Was there doubt on a regular basis? Yeah. Yes, right? Attorneys are not the easiest people to please, okay? And I created a product for the people. I want to help patients across the nation. I want them to know that they have these rights. Sadly, Google, Microsoft, Apple, all tried a personal health record. I don't know if you recall, but all of them tried this in some form or another.
That I'm not aware of,
and spent a lot of money doing it. It resulted in massive waste, and all of them just dumped it, right?
Not to do it,
I think they have landed on Fitbits and other little things that do sort of track your health and will tie into other things, but they all gave up on the platform, and it was really neat to understand why. Nobody cared. The consumers don't care about their medical records because they don't know they're important, right? And so I knew the the risks of having watched the big three fall on their face.
Yeah.
And here I am going, I got this.
Yeah, I'll be the one to do it.
Yeah, somehow I'll
Google,
do this. Google schmoogle. Yeah. But no, it really did it boiled down to focus and understanding the market. Who are the people that need the record? Well, the injured. If you're injured, you need your records.
Right.
How do I reach them? And the easiest way to reach them is through civil litigators.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of that moment of clarity for me was, okay, yay. Let's go convince lawyers that they should use this service made by this nobody guy. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, and so, I think that you're drilling down into something that's times that I am happy to be beyond.
Yeah.
But, I will tell you, I would drive home. I rented this crappy little office. When I left the one company, moved to the next, we had every penny mattered. And so we were in this crappy little office, and I would be there till 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I didn't have the money to hire people. Yeah. So I'm doing everything. My pregnant wife is doing everything. We're calling providers, just trying to make this little program work because there's too many people using it now. And I didn't have any money to, you know what I mean? It's like, let's just scrape it together. And I remember I would be driving home 9 or 10 o'clock at night, up the 5 to, from Dana Point up to Mission Viejo, short drive. But there was every time I got in the car, I would play the same song. And there's a song by Eminem, Lose Yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And it starts out with, if you had one shot,
yeah.
right? That moment, would you capture it, right? Or would you let it slip? Mm-hmm. And that has stayed with me. I got goosebumps now thinking about it because I literally every day, and many of those days, Kenny, I'd be in tears. I'd be in tears like I need to get home to my family. I don't know if any of this is going to work. But the passion continued to push me and the drive continued to push me, and I would get home. I just want to get home and kiss that baby. I want to kiss my wife, and I would use that song to keep the motivation, right? There's so many things trying to push you down and make sure you fail, including a $10 billion a year industry.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that those times are probably healthy for me to reflect on now. Yeah. But, for your listeners, don't be afraid of those times. That's what I would say. Just don't let those type of times terrify you, because there is always light at the end of the tunnel, and you are the measure of your own success.
That's great. Wow, that's really great. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Those stories I always love hearing from entrepreneurs, because as much as people want to, experience success just in a linear fashion, that doesn't happen. But it's hearing these stories. I was getting almost like getting teary-eyed as you were. I was picturing, you and your pregnant wife, they're working, and it's just like everybody's in on this, right? And like committed, but there's also uncertainty. You don't know if it's going to work, but there's this passion and a belief, right? But it is uncertain because it simply is.
Yep.
But this idea of you guys all working together, right? And you got the song blaring, going, and you're like, you're just pumping yourself up, and you're like, I will show up here tomorrow, and I'm going to keep doing it.
Lose yourself in it.
Yeah.
Just lose yourself in it. That's what you have to do. And I think, it didn't get any easier. I'll just share, pretty sure it's public knowledge. Not that most people know or care, but that company that I did work for summarily identified that I had launched ChartSquad and sued me.
Yeah.
Personally and the company. It was, of course, fortunate that I had married an attorney who's brilliant. And over the course of, I think, what turned into 7 different lawsuits, because she kept winning and they kept having to change the complaint, she eventually put it to rest. And not only did she put it to rest, Kenny, she won an anti-SLAPP here in California, set precedent, and we washed our hands of the litigation challenges at that moment. Wow. Right? You can't litigate against someone that's empowering the public with their own voice. And while they tried to mask that into different lawsuits and different angles,
it's at the heart of it.
The heart of it is I'm empowering patients. That's it. People, you work for attorneys and you're cheating us out of money. No, I'm not. I work for the patient.
Yeah.
Attorneys, utilize my services to help empower their plaintiffs. The plaintiffs go get the records. Kenny, if I go get my records, if you go get your records, you can put them on Facebook if you want.
Yeah.
Your provider has no business asking you why you want them. And they certainly have no business trying to charge you $1 a page or some other ridiculous amount. Last time I checked, PDF is an electronic file. Doesn't have pages.
Yeah.
It's got megabytes.
Yeah.
You going to start charging per megabyte?
Yeah.
Because that's a different conversation. But that's so anyway, that journey, yes, it was difficult. It remains difficult today because at the scale that we're operating on, now it's business problems.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Before there was a purpose problem and I wanted to solve it and I wanted to get that red off my ledger. The red is off my ledger. I wake up with a smile every day and I'm eager to find new ways to help all patients across the U.S.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. And so Melanie has been a godsend to you in more ways than one, right?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. I didn't know that she, even the litigation stuff, that she stepped in and did all that. That's super
she's
cool.
a phenomenal attorney. Yeah. I mean, it was a lucky union. Can you imagine? I would never have won, right? And I wouldn't have had the money to hire
somebody to do it.
a defense firm, right? So it really was a perfect union. And in so many ways, she's helped make me a better person. I can't. So I said earlier, guys, listen to your wife. They're usually right, no matter what you think. Just listen and try to take heed. But yeah, she's an amazing attorney, and she is an amazing faucet of information. Because Kenny, as you said before, most lawyers don't understand why, right? Well, Melanie's out there educating the nation. She speaks at all these events. She's going to be in Mexico, in fact, at the women's travel.
Women in Trial.
Women in Trial
Summit.
Travel. Yeah, WIT. So she'll be speaking there. She'll be speaking at TBI as well. Won't go on and on about it, but she is.
And I see her all the time at these conferences. So she's
She's everywhere. I don't know how she does it. I mean, she's an amazing mother. She manages to spend so much time with the kids when she is home, and keep up with all of her work, which is phenomenal. And she's just as passionate about helping people as I am. She's the attorney. She swore an oath. I'm just a dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can do math really well, right? Like, but she's really the power behind all of this. She's the one that gets the attention of the attorneys. They start listening, they start understanding, and we keep growing because of it. And what's the end result? We're helping more plaintiffs, more patients every single day. And that is rewarding.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. And since we're speaking about Melanie, I work with family. My sister practices with me. My dad works in the office as well. My mother comes in part-time as well. So it's a very family thing, right, that we have, and we love being together and working together. You work with your wife. How has that been? And also, I'm also aware that you guys have a very family-oriented business, right? Just culture. And you can talk to us a little bit about that. And I think, not everybody works with family. Some people, I know people have told us, hey,
Never hire
you
family.
shouldn't do it, and all that stuff. But how has it been for you? And what are those benefits that you see as well? And maybe there are challenges as well, but how do you go through those? Yeah.
I mean, there's challenges, but I'd say I'll answer it two ways. One, you asked me previously, I'm gonna loop back to that previous question. What did you learn from the other company when you started this company? This is one of the things I should have mentioned, and I will now. I learned how not to treat people, right?
Yeah.
I learned how not to treat people when I worked at that other company. And so when I started ChartSquad with Melanie, that was part of my promise to myself. And I will have a company that actually values its employees. And that's what I've done since day one. We have what I like to call, what I dubbed at the onset, a family first mentality. So you need a dog sitter and you can't make it into work, bring the dog into work. You just had a baby, bring the baby in. You got kids, can't get a sitter, bring the kids in. I mean, we've fostered a family environment for 13 years, and it just continues to grow. We do these things, ChartSquad babies, because we have so many employees now, and they will, right? It's going to happen.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
And we love it,
Yeah.
and we're celebrating what we call ChartSquad babies. It's like, ooh, this person's pregnant. Yay. We got all excited. We want pictures, we know you're off. We don't mean to bug you, but can you send pictures?
Yeah.
We're really invested in it, and so are the team. And as you add more people to that team, you actually feel part of that family. It's not easy to continue that culture.
Yeah.
The larger you get, it's harder to get people to buy in, right?
Yeah, sure.
But it's there. It exists at our core, and it is what helps us keep the team together. Is it challenging to work with family? It's challenging to admit that you're wrong.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And my wife has taught me how to take that a lot better. And I think boys are headstrong, and we just want to go do things. And it's not just about Melanie is oftentimes right and I'm oftentimes wrong. It's about Melanie is more oftentimes on the right side of the law, right? Hey, I got this new idea for the company. Let's go do this. You didn't take that apart. It's like you did when you created ChartSquad. Now you're just getting headstrong again. She keeps me grounded, right? Like, whoa. That's got a yucky tint to it. Actually, I didn't think about that. You're right. You know?
Yeah.
But when you get to the point where you're running a business and it's growing, you have to focus on revenues and how to work these margins.
Yeah.
So it's difficult in that respect. It's not difficult. In fact, it's gratifying to be able to go through the journey with her. It's not like I come home, she complains about her day, I complain about my day, and we don't really know what each other do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, we know.
Yeah, very intimately.
We are
so,
immersed daily, and I'm sure, to be honest, I'm sure she enjoys the conferences. She's like, let me get out of this craziness. Give me 3 days in Florida. Yes.
Yeah.
But no, it's fun. It's not easy. It is challenging. I know the general rule is don't hire family. It creates conflicts, and those conflicts are very difficult to resolve. But I'm good at eating crow, so I make it work.
That's great. It's funny because people have asked and we've talked to different folks, and I think I've arrived at not that long ago. Actually, I think the best way for me to describe when people ask, sort of working with family, is that I go, look, this is what I want. I want to work with family.
Yep.
And so, are there huge benefits? Absolutely. Are there challenges? You're going to find challenges no matter where you go. I'm going to find challenges
Bad
and
apples
with
and people that don't want to work.
It's going to happen. But I've decided I want to work with family, and so I will be intentional about addressing any issues or challenges or stuff that pop up, and we have those conversations so that we can continue to work forward, right?
Yep.
And that's it. I would have issues no matter where there are a congregation of people, there are going to be problems.
Yep.
That's it, right? So
You're absolutely right. I think that there's an element to having family involved that is more rewarding.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, family is more than just blood. Right. I have some really close, lifelong friends that I brought into the fold. Right. My brother works for me.
Oh, I don't know. Very cool.
He's. I'm sure you've met Clinton before at the local events.
Yeah. Well, then you know what? Then I didn't know that you guys were brothers.
That's
Absolutely.
my brother.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's a savage. I mean, he's fantastic with compliance. He works on my special operations team, and anytime providers give us the stone wall, he's one of the people that call and explain to them. He doesn't call release of information.
Yeah.
He calls the legal department. He calls risk management, and he says, "Do you understand that your policies are in violation of federal law?" And he does so in an articulate manner, fighting for the patient's civil right of access, and he wins every time, right? You don't get that from just anybody, right? You know what family brings you?
There we go.
They carry that passion and belief.
100%.
They're toting your flag, Kenny.
100%.
And when you start to get a little bit beat up, they're the first ones to push you back.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, you're starting to slip. You know? So I think that community brings bad seeds, bad apples, however you want to look at it. But having a few good, solid, trustworthy people on your team always makes a difference.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's cool, and it's really wonderful to hear that as the foundation for ChartSquad and who you guys are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you we talked about the solution that ChartSquad provides. Can you give us some examples of that for people to sort of see how that works in sort of real time, and both in time being efficient, but also the costs as well, right?
Well, 40,000 foot view, if you zoom out, what we had talked about, empowering the patients, right? It's ChartSquad is an electronic personal health record created for patients, right? So any of your listeners can sign up for ChartSquad. It's absolutely free. Yeah. Create your own personal health record. Request any records from anywhere you've ever treated, free. I don't charge a dime.
Yeah, no monthly fee, no none.
There's no subscription fee. There's no nada. If your provider sends us an invoice to release the records, we're going to pass it on to you. If that invoice is not compliant, we're going to tell you. And then we're going to offer to help you report that violation to the Office for Civil Rights, who we integrate with. Makes us up quite a bit different than every other retrieval service out there. Because at our heart, we're not really a retrieval service. We're a sharing service. We're letting patients get their records themselves and seamlessly sharing them with anyone that they choose. Okay. There's nothing... There's no hidden tricks in it, okay? There's no patentable secrets here. It's just, patients, learn about this. Here we go. I'm going to do all the work for you, and I'm going to help whoever it is that's connected to the need, right? And so whether you are moving out of state, like I talked about before, and you want to make sure that you get the best treatment moving forward, you need to go see a new provider, bring your old records. Yeah. Don't bring an abstract of them. Don't bring what the industry typically calls, whatever's minimum necessary, right? If you go to a new doctor, your new doctor is going to automatically request your old records from wherever you treated, and they're going to get a tiny sliver. Here's the medication list. Here's the problem list. Here's some lab tests, right? And what's your new provider going to do? Do all the tests all over again to protect their own asses so they don't make bad choices? So, that is the platform in itself. And if you take that platform and you connect it to insurance companies, attorneys, state disability offices. Just 2 days ago, we onboarded Schnucks. It's a grocery chain.
Wow.
Never saw servicing that market, but they also need to connect with their employees and blah, 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 right? So wow. It's a solution that can penetrate and really, really be effective for a lot of different verticals. I'm still learning. I'm still learning every day. How many more people can I help? I'm toying with the trucking industry. You have all these carriers, FedEx, UPS, and it's like these drivers are sitting in trucks for blah, blah, blah. It's like they're getting injured. They're getting disparate treatment all over different states as they drive across the nation, hauling us our goods. Maybe they should have one of these records. But for the purposes of the legal vertical, I'll try to focus there. Attorneys can utilize ChartSquad and, by right of retainer, create a personal health record for their patient. We don't want to put any of the burden on the patient. Attorneys understand this really, really well. They've used copy services. They hate them because they don't do a good job. They make promises they don't deliver on, and they charge a friggin' fortune, right? So many law firms have decided, I'm just going to have my patients go get the records. Right? And I know a lot of them have done that. And a lot of them have figured out that's a really bad idea. Because first of all, this person is injured. Second of all, this person is just going to get beat up by their provider. And they're going to be told they owe this much money. And it's just a really large burden. So what ChartSquad essentially does for law firms is we empower your plaintiffs with that methodology. It's just like sending your patient out to get their own records, except that patient is on steroids. And that patient's called ChartSquad. We're going to fight for that patient. We're going to call the provider every 5 to 7 days. Real people calling other humans, getting a status. We're going to provide that status on the portal so whether you're a patient or whether you're the attorney, you get to know exactly what's going on with your patient access request. And once the records come in, we deliver it to that patient, and the patient chooses to share that with anyone that they choose. In this case, their attorney. It's no different if the patient walked in, demanded their records, walked out with a crate of records, and then drove it to their attorney's office and sat it down. What's the release of information? What business does that industry have in that relationship? They don't. And so a lot of people have called ChartSquad a disruptor. Fine, I'm disrupting a $10 billion a year industry. I'm just getting started. Okay? Because last I checked, there's over 3.5 million How many people can I serve here?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. And I like the visual that you just painted right now is you get people, if somebody wants the records, they can go to the hospital if they can get them, and they can come give it to their attorneys in a barrel or whatever, right? Cartons. They can share it with whomever they want to share it with, right? And you're just providing that in a digital manner and more efficiently as well, right? So they're sharing it with the attorneys.
With federal compliance under HIPAA, high-tech, and of course SOC 2 compliant. Like the security and privacy of patients is paramount.
Yeah.
Okay, so that can't be understated either. It's really important. Patients need to feel like they can trust the process as well.
Right.
And so having gotten a little bit of wind behind our sails, I think more and more of the patient population is trusting us, and it's exciting to see the wave, especially post-COVID, of consumers that are flooding into ChartSquad because I want to know what's in my records.
Right.
Well, good for you. You should want to know, and we're here to help you do it. And release of information industry be damned. They're going to call you, and they're going to try to trick you into telling them something that allows them to charge you more money. It's my federally granted civil right. Give me my records. Done.
Right.
End of conversation.
And then the cost as well is just an entirely different universe.
It's a different universe. I can give you a couple of anecdotals.
Yeah, please.
There, under HIPAA, there are three, and I'm not going to bore your listeners, but there's three ways that you can legally charge to release information. The average cost to release any record, the actual cost of labor only to release that record, or $6.50. Everybody in this industry gloms onto $6.50. Fine, because that's probably the highest of those three categories, Kenny. When you can only charge for your labor, and you're working in an electronic medical record system, and you pull up John Smith and you click export, how many hours of labor would you say were consumed there?
Yeah, about 0.001.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the jig is up on that industry as it relates to direct patient access, and they need to start embracing it. So with a direct example, I'll give you a couple. There was a woman in New York. Her husband died. She's very upset about it, didn't know why. It was out of the blue. It didn't make any sense. She requested the records. They stonewalled her. She really wants to know why her husband died. The woman has a right to know. Sure. Okay. Yeah. She's now the wife of the deceased. She is now the personal representative. She now has federal right of access. She has gone through attorneys. She has tried herself. They won't release the records. Okay. At the end of the day, here's a massive bill. How about you pay this massive $20,000 bill, and we can give you these records? No, that's not going to happen either. And she finds ChartSquad. ChartSquad goes in, puts the hammer down. As I said, we integrate with the Office for Civil Rights. That's the federal regulatory body. They came in, put the hammer on the provider, and out come the records. Kenny, it turns out in the radiology, they totally whiffed. Oh. They missed it 3 years prior.
Yeah.
He should be alive today. Yeah. Ugh, it bothers me. But that's just one example, right? You want to pay $20,000 to find out this bad news, or did you want to get it charged $650? Because that's what she got charged when she went through ChartSquad.
Yeah.
There's another one that just happened actually last week.
And by the way, that is unbelievable. Because when you're looking at a $20,000 plus bill and paying $650 for the same thing, it's like how do those things even exist?
They don't.
As a possible two options. It shouldn't exist.
It shouldn't. You're fleecing the public.
Yeah.
And we talked about moral high ground, right? I don't know how you people sleep at night.
Yeah.
It's just beyond me. This other case, we had $63,000 for very complex injury. Infant dies. And mom wants to know, mom needs answers. And same sort of relevant story. We're not paying the $63,000. This one was actually directly related with a civil litigation firm and net case, right? And we put the hammer down, sent the OCR in, and the records, of course, here come the records, $6.50. Yeah. See, $63,000 coming out of your settlement
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
What,
I mean, that.
what?
Yeah.
How does one even make sense of it?
It does.
You can't justify having charged that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's this many pages because her infant was treated in the NICU and the blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, right? And you guys probably messed up along the way. We're going to figure that out, right? That's up to the civil litigators. For my part, I just want this woman to have her records. And so I could go on and on. We have stories like that. This is literally what ChartSquad lives and celebrates on a daily basis. Internally, weekly, we share those huge wins and how we're helping people, and it keeps my team fired up.
Yeah.
It's like, we will put an end to these injustices. We're not lawyers. We're not doing the big things that you are. You know what I mean? But we're working real hard on the back end.
It's all part of it.
Underneath
absolutely.
to empower you guys to do what you do. It's why we like to say civil justice starts with the medical record.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And it's not just, I mean, in addition to what you're talking about, it's, yes, you're helping, let's say, rather than $63,000 not being available to the injured person at the end because that's taken out of their settlement, right?
Per pocket.
You have to pay back for the costs that the attorneys advanced. But it's also, it helps attorneys be able to handle their cases and move their cases along. For example, I was telling you before we started, when I first opened up my practice, we had one case where it was $20,000 plus pages in a case, and the bill that was sent over, the invoice before they released it to us, it was close to $10,000. And I remember going, I mean, I guess if we have to, but like, it's smart. I have other cases.
It's a good case.
But I have other cases. We're just getting started, and you're like, well, that's not going to be, and that's just $10,000. That's just parked there, right? As opposed to now we're able to get all the records for under $50, right?
Yeah,
and that makes a world of a difference, not just in the case that maybe a solo attorney, young attorneys are handling in that moment, but a net effect on all the other cases that they're handling as well, and other costs that they have to advance. And then
start adding that up.
You start multiplying that across many cases in mid-sized firms, larger firms. I mean, it's a savings cost for the client ultimately. But it also helps firms on a day-to-day basis as well.
It helps firms as well, not only reputationally, right? Because there's an intrinsic benefit of, hey, I got this free personal health record. That's cool. Hey, this happened quickly.
Yeah.
I didn't have to wait that long. Why? Well, because another intrinsic part of ChartSquad we didn't talk about is the time in which it takes us to get the records is much shorter.
Much shorter.
We did 2019, we did a nationwide plaintiff study. Over 500 firms we interviewed of all sizes, and it was just north of 6 months was their average time to actually obtain records. And they were paying, nearly $100 a record on average. And their clerical costs that none of them had figured out, but we had derived these questions to figure, how much time how many paralegals?
That's what they don't consider.
They do not. And so we just used industry standards, per average per hour wages to get an understanding. And it was like, wait, okay, so you're spending $70 or $80 per request in labor of your staff, not being very good at it, and waiting 6 months before you get your records. Well, what's the plaintiff been doing that whole time? Waiting around?
Yeah.
Right? Hopefully treating, hopefully getting better. But at the end of the day, what has the law firm now laid out in costs? They're not considering it, right? With ChartSquad, we are removing all of those things. We're giving you about 90% of your on-desk time back because we're making all the phone calls.
Yeah.
And if anything takes too long, we give you that button, report violation, right? Let us bring in the federal regulators. Here's the really neat thing that most attorneys don't understand. Everyone thinks, I have my HIPAA. We're good. I'll just send in my HIPAA, right? Well, that lingo means a HIPAA-compliant authorization, right? In order to get records as a third party, you have to complete a HIPAA-compliant authorization. Now, that form, Kenny, is discretionary. Most people don't understand this. It's discretionary. You send that in, the provider can say, I don't like your form, fill out my form.
Yeah.
It's a huge pain in the ass, right?
Yeah,
how many doctors? They have special forms, special auths everywhere. The other thing they can do is say, I'm going to take my dear sweet time, or pay me 20 grand, right? Yeah. They have all the discretion. And with ChartSquad, we operate strictly with one form. It is called a high-tech patient access form. It is compulsory.
Yeah.
The receiver of said form, a covered entity, a medical provider, has 30 days to comply with federal law, or they are in violation of federal law. Period. They don't have a choice to how much to charge you. They can't tell you fill out my form. One form, one signature, one purpose. We get the job done. So I think what a lot of law firms recognize too, and long-term users of ChartSquad sort of take this for granted, but when you are using ChartSquad, records are coming in faster, and that facilitates your growth. When you're closing cases faster, you can take on more cases.
Sure.
You can help more people, right? And that's what your civil
it about at
litigators
the
are
end of the
in
day.
the industry to do, just that. So it's like a hand-in-glove relationship, and it's not hiring a vendor. It's a partnership. That's more than anything. ChartSquad is a partner in your law firm. And so, if there are young litigators listening, boy, start early.
Yeah.
Don't go it alone. Let us help you, and that's what we're here to do. Established law firms are a little harder to sway because they think they know how to do everything. And Sheila's fantastic. Okay, I'm sure she is.
Yeah.
And I'm sure she is, right? But you're talking apples and oranges here, right?
Yeah.
Sheila's sending in your discretionary form, getting jerked all around, wasting your labor dollars and her own time that could be spent calling clients, right? Helping improve the client's interaction and brand recognition of the law firms, all that are trying to grow and help more people. I mean, there's a lot of things. We're hitting on a lot of pillars here.
I mean, it's like sending correspondence by mail or send it by email. I mean, the message is going to get there eventually, right? But in an email, you'll get it in 2 seconds after.
And it's free.
Yeah.
And if you're mailing it, it's what, 70-something cents now? I lost track
There
of
is
postage.
a difference. No, absolutely. No, thank you for that. And it is something that I use, like, in full disclosure, and it's not, paid anything. It's something that I use.
Yeah.
And so I tell people all the time, like, you need to use it and give it a shot, at least give it a shot, because it helps. To your point, ultimately what I'm in this as an attorney and a plaintiff's attorney is I'm helping injured people, and the more people that I can help, the better, right? Because
Absolutely.
that's what this is about, helping people
Quickly.
And
Don't drag it out. Quickly.
And this lets me do that is a component that helps me do that for them quicker.
It's worth mentioning as well, Kenny, and you can testify to this because you use the service. I don't charge your firm. It's free.
Yeah.
Every invoice you receive from ChartSquad is a case cost.
Yeah, and I told you, it's funny, I told you that before we started too, that it took me a long time because, I was at another firm for many years and just kind of did getting records retrieval the way that everybody else did it.
Sure.
And, I opened up my own practice. I'd heard of ChartSquad, but it took me many emails with your staff, talking with Melanie at booths, and to finally kind of go, all right, let me give this a shot. But is this real? Like, is this, like, it sounds too good to be true.
Yeah.
But it's
a
real
common
and it works.
experience. It is a common experience, and there's a stigma in the industry because there are many, many, many copy services, retrieval services. And the sad truth about that, again, I told you I like to take things apart and understand the underbelly. Those are all driven by VC and private equity. If you didn't know, okay? Right. So you have massive conglomerates of pooled money that put together a platform, and they promise all of these things and they make it look fancy. Right. All they're doing is taking your HIPAA authorization and sending it to the provider using automated data, raking in cash in a different manner. Right. You're still paying all those high provider fees, and they don't care, Kenny. They don't care whether you get the records or not. They're in it for the money. That's one of the defining differences about ChartSquad is as a partner, we are here to help you exact civil justice. And to your point about, I've seen it, I don't really believe it. Okay, give it a go.
Yeah.
I say to everyone I talk to, give me the Pepsi challenge. I've never lost once.
It's a good one, yeah. And you know what? We're coming close to our time here. I know your time is valuable, and thank you for coming here and speaking with us.
It's been great. I love it.
What I do want to sort of finish off, if we can here, I want to get your thoughts and maybe tips on, business and founding and having run your business. Any tips and things that you can share with our listeners who may be entrepreneurs themselves, maybe have their own businesses or aspiring, right? Maybe one in particular here is the idea for scaling as well. Is maybe people would like to scale sometime in the future, but maybe they're not at that stage yet, right? Or what are some thoughts, particularly you, in terms of running a business, operations, your experience with your previous business and this one as well,
Sure.
rolling nationwide? So what are the things that people and tips that maybe you can give us that people can begin to implement now in their own businesses, or sort of thoughts and concepts, or maybe where to learn or where to like pick ideas from?
I would love to. I don't think they're going to align with the books that you read, but I will be completely honest. right?
Please, yeah.
Just do it. Just put the fear to the side. It's risk, and without it, there's no reward. Okay, so people have these great ideas and they want to try things. This is what I would say. You don't need the money to do it. You just have to do it. Right? You're going to come up with 10 reasons why you're going to fail, maybe 20. Take those reasons, write them down, keep them on a notebook, and then on the next page, write down why you want to do it. The reason why has to trump all of those other reasons, right? That if you are going to be an entrepreneur, and this is speaking right to the heart of being an employee, working for the man, or building your own dream. We'll go back to something, back to my wife, something she printed out for me in those early days. And I've got it framed and it hung on until I've just recently moved. It's not hanging now, 'cause truth guides me, but it lived in my offices for 12 years. It's now in transition. I haven't pulled it out of the box yet, but it says, build your dream or help someone else build theirs. And that's pretty powerful stuff, right? If you think about it, well, what's easier? I'll just go help this guy. He seems to have a good idea. I'll go help him,
Right.
But there's a certain breed of people, and I do believe you're born with it. Some little seedling of it exists in you, right? To be able to be an entrepreneur. Like anyone can do it, but you have to be able to overcome that list of things that tells you you're going to fail. And so for your listeners, that's what I would say. You have to believe in yourself and you have to believe in your purpose. It's one of the things I love about this podcast, right? The art of purpose, it really is an art. You have to create, craft, fail, and then keep. Failure is nothing but packaged wisdom.
I like that.
That's really, really, your listeners need to understand that, and that can be powerful medicine for them. When you do skin your knee, right? Now I know not to do that stupid thing, or I know how to do this thing better. You will never have gained that wisdom if you didn't make the mistake, right? And I teach my staff this all the time. They get really self-conscious and they feel terrible when they've made a mistake. And because everything that we do is so pivotal, and there's people that are injured that need to be helped, and I feel really bad, Chris, this happened. And I always tell them, the new people, as they're coming on board, mistakes are an opportunity to do better next time. That's what they are, unless you keep making them, in which case it's carelessness, and you're not paying attention. So again, those failures are packaged wisdom, and they are gifts. String them together, wear them as a necklace. You know what I mean? That's what got me here. You think that every day was just random success? No,
Definitely
it's
not.
hard work. So if you are more comfortable being part of a team and really driving to help someone else accomplish something, there's great merit to that. Fantastic merit to that. If you're one of those people that says, damn it, I think I can do it better. I'm tired of being told this. I'm tired of doing things this way, and it's not right. I know there's a better way to do that. There's plenty of law firms you can work at that you would definitely feel that way, right? That not all law firms are on high moral ground. Some of them are just peddling cases for dollars, right? If you're in one of those situations, or if you're at a business that's doing the same thing and you know that that's happening and you feel like you can do it better, I guarantee you can. You just have to do it. And that's where most people fail. They fail to try. How about just try and then fail and then learn how to try harder the next time? Learn what you did wrong. We all have blinders on, Kenny, to a certain degree. We only know what we know, right? We're a product of our ecosystem, right? And I think it's really important for people to understand you can break those blinders off anytime you want, but it takes discovery. It takes you doing some work, some hard work oftentimes. Do the research, understand what it is that you want to accomplish, and then start to tackle it. There's gonna be things you missed.
Yeah.
You're gonna have, you're gonna whiff a couple of times.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you get back up and take that whiff and use it as sort of a badge to move to the next mistake. Well, what's the next one going to be? If people say you should write a book, and if I ever wrote a book, it would literally be about a chain of mistakes that I've made over my entire life and how I learned from each one only to get to a better position the next time. Yeah. But something I ignorantly lack is fear. and maybe that helps me, right?
Sure.
And maybe other people are more captured by that fear. And if you find a way to break free from it, you're going to do great things.
I love that. Were there any books or anything like that you would recommend, or maybe speakers or somebody that you'd be like, you know what, hey, you guys should take a listen or read this book?
There's a lot of them.
Yeah. I don't want to put you on the spot.
No,
here, but
no, not at all. There's a lot of them. I don't want to overwhelm people. And I will also share with your audience, once you do endeavor down this road, you will not have much time for books. So read them in advance.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get into classifications or labels either, but I will say innately, male or female, the Jordan Peterson book on the 10 rules, or 12 rules for life.
Okay.
And he has a second one as well. The first one is really, it's mind-blowing, right? If you can just focus on simple rules of success, the rest of it all starts to make sense. Life is chaos, and it's coming at us a million miles an hour. Nobody knows what's happening tomorrow. You have all these dreams and aspirations, and everyone else telling you you'll never do it. It's not going to happen. I'm not that guy, right? I think Jordan Peterson's book really simplifies it in such a manner that, look, if you wake up every day, just focus on you and your room. Make your bed. Do the dishes. Take care of the things that are in your immediate sphere. And you're going to start to feel better about yourself. You're going to start to part ways with all that chaos. And then once you can do that, then move to the living room, right? I'm not following his exact book, but I'm just giving you the same kind of concept. And you go from household to community, from community to region, from region to state, and from state you can go out. And I've really used that approach with ChartSquad. We grew up in California. We were strictly helping firms in California and consumers in California. We started getting questions from other states. Why can't I sign up? Why can't I use it? Well, I guess you can. That's another one of the great, mistakes. Why wouldn't I have just launched this nationwide? As far as books go, that one really it resonated with me in a sense of, if I can apply a little bit of order, just a handful of rules to try to control the chaos that otherwise is life that comes at you, you can really put it to good use, but you have to, you really have to dedicate yourself to it. And there's another part of it that maybe will resonate with you. In the book, he talks about, we will spend more energy and time and money taking care of our pets than we will of ourselves, right? Yeah. Like, we will overlook things purposely that can cause us harm. But if my pet's in trouble, I'm going to make sure he's let's take him to the vet. Yeah, I've got this nagging injury, but I'm not going to go to the doctor. Yeah. But something goes wrong. You know what I mean? So you have to be cognizant of yourself first and recognize that everyone's watching you as sort of an example. Sadly, most people are watching, waiting and hoping that you fail so they can say, I told you so, right? But for those of us who just continue to drive forward, I think that, and if you're that kind of a person, I think the book will resonate with you. And if you're an entrepreneur, one of the people that has guided me in my journey, much to my wife's chagrin, is PBD, Patrick Bet-David. Not sure if you're familiar with him.
Yeah.
But phenomenal influencer, and he has great advice. One of his books, Choose Your Enemies Wisely, is a great read as well. Once you get into the entrepreneurial world, you will quickly understand that you do have enemies, and you want to know who they are. And sometimes you want them to be your friends instead, right? So I'd say those are two quick throwouts.
Thank you for that. It's funny you mentioned enemies. I was literally, I think, yesterday or the day before. Yesterday, I was with my dad, and we were talking, and he's telling me about how Rockefeller, one of the letters he wrote to his son was that, one of his main competitors had died, and the letter to his son was like, today is a really sad day. We lost a really great man, and blah, blah, blah. That basically is acknowledgement that this guy pushed me throughout his whole life. And even him being my enemy, my competitor, I respected him, but man, did he push me. And
absolutely.
Like, the world lost a great man today.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's good stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, Chris, thank you so much for your time today. I think we, just learned a lot about your story, the beginning of ChartSquad, the solution that ChartSquad provides as well. And, thanks for all your tips as well and advice.
For what they may be worth.
You know what? Absolutely. Because I think, for anybody, people identify with different people in different ways. And I always love listening, no matter who it is, because it's like I can take something from any story, right? And like apply it to my life. And I really felt that our conversation here was great. Thank you for coming and sharing. And it definitely is of much worth. So
thank you, Kenny.
Yeah.
It's nice of you to say.
Yeah.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah.
Real honor.
Yeah. So everyone, thank you so much once again for joining us on this latest episode of Art of Purpose. Hope you enjoyed our conversation with Chris today and that it was a value add to your life. We have many other great conversations and content coming this upcoming year. So stay tuned.